a $1.75 billion radar deal, a $900 million investment into an Indian fintech startup, and fresh concerns around one of the world's most valuable space companies. These stories have nothing in common, but as one is happening in Arctic, one is happening in Silicon Valley and India, and one is happening in space. But together they reveal something much bigger. The world's most powerful governments and companies are no longer just competing for territory, resources, or even customers. They are competing to control the infrastructure that future economies will run on, and that race is accelerating. For decades, the power was measured by military size, oil production, and industrial capacity. Today, power increasingly comes from infrastructure, and the infrastructure that detects threats, the infrastructure that moves money, and the infrastructure that connects the planet. So, these three stories we are covering today look unrelated, but together they show how the definition of strategic power is changing. So, let's start with the most obvious example. Canada and Australia have signed a deal worth roughly $1.75 billion to build an advanced long radar system in northern Canada. Now, the first question you may ask is, why spend billions of dollars on a radar system? So, the answer is simple: you cannot defend against what you can't see. So, the Arctic is becoming increasingly important from a security perspective. As geopolitical competition increases, countries want earlier warning systems capable of detecting the aircraft, missiles, and other potential threats from vast distances. So the radar itself is important, but what countries are really buying is information. That is the awareness, visibility, reaction time. So the country that sees first often gains a major advantage. This is why modern security increasingly revolves around sensors, data, and intelligent systems rather than just military hardware. So the lesson here is simple. In the modern world, information infrastructure is becoming as important as physical infrastructure. And that same trend appears in our second story. This week, Meta made one of its most surprising moves in years. The company invested around $900 million into Indian fintech startup Cred, while appointing its founder Kunal Shah as the new leader of WhatsApp. Now, here's the question many people immediately ask: why would Meta spend nearly $1 billion on a fintech company? And why put a fintech founder in charge of a WhatsApp? The answer may reveal where Meta sees the future is going. Because most people think WhatsApp is a messaging app, Meta may see it as something much bigger. Because WhatsApp already has billions of users worldwide. If messaging was the first phase, payments and commerce could be the next phase. Kunal Shah has built Cred into one of the India's most influential fintech platforms, serving millions of users, processing a significant share of India's credit card ecosystem. So his appointment suggests basically that Meta may be thinking beyond chats and messages. It may be thinking about financial infrastructure. Imagine a future where messaging, payments, commerce, customer service, AI assistants, and business transactions all happen within the same ecosystem. That would transform WhatsApp from a communication platform into an economic platform. And economic platform tend to become incredibly powerful. So this isn't just a leadership change. It is potentially a signal about the future direction of one of the world's most powerful important digital networks. But if information infrastructure matters and financial infrastructure matters, then there is one more layer that may matter even more. That is space infrastructure. So this week, investors were once again debating SpaceX valuation and future prospects. But the interesting question is not that whether SpaceX shares moves up or down. The real question that is, why is SpaceX considered so important? Because SpaceX isn't really a rocket company anymore. It is an infrastructure company. Its satellites enables communications, its launches systems provides access to the space, its networks increasingly support governments, businesses, and military operations. In other words, SpaceX is helping build infrastructure beyond Earth, and that infrastructure could become critical to the future communications, navigation, defense, and commerce. That's why investors pay so much attention to the company. They aren't simply valuing rockets, they are valuing a future network. Now we will connect all of these three stories. Like Canada and Australia have invested in awareness infrastructure. Meta is investing in financial and communication infrastructure, and SpaceX is X is building a orbital infrastructure. You know, different industries, but the same trend. Power is increasingly shifting toward those who control critical systems. So the biggest competition of next decade may not be over land, it may be over networks. And the networks that help the world see, the networks that help the world communicate, and the networks that help the world transact. So for the most of the history, nations fought to control territory. Today, countries and corporations are racing to control financial, to control the infrastructure. Because in the digital age, whoever controls the system often controls the opportunities. And these three headlines we looked at today suggest the race is only getting started.